Whether you live in Southwest Florida or are just visiting, storms are part of our coastal paradise. And as the Weather Authority, we track the tropics for you. Not only preparing you and your family when a storm is on the way.
When a watch is issued, prepare. And when a warning is issued, take action.
But before the Wink Weather Authority tracks the next one on Wink Doppler 3X, we are dedicated to keeping you prepared and informed.
From getting your home ready to knowing your evacuation zone,
We have your back for each and every storm.
you're watching Wink Tracks the Tropics. Thank you for joining us here on Wink Tracks the Tropics. I'm Wink Weather Authority meteorologist Katie Walls. We're so glad that you can join us here today, and we want to remind you that this is an interactive show, so whether you're joining us on Facebook Live or on YouTube, please ask your questions in the comment section below. Joining me today is Wink Weather Authority meteorologist Andrew Shipatovsky. So we have Andrew, we have myself, and we are here to make sure that you are informed on this Friday. It is the second full week of the start of hurricane season.
Gosh, this month is flying by.
It is flying by. I think it's flying by a little too quickly. It's a little scary that it's already June 12th, but thankfully everything is nice and quiet, my friends. Okay, so here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking a bit more about El Nino. I know that you and Lauren hit on it yesterday.
Yep.
But we have kind of been going more into depth about the importance of El Nino developing. Well, friends, in case you missed yesterday's episode, it is official. And you might be thinking, okay, well, why do the sea surface temperatures in the Pacific matter to us? Well, look at that graphic right there. You see the pinks, you see the reds. So that is what we call, that's literally the equatorial Pacific. So that's 5 degrees on either side of the equator. And here's what happens. Here's how scientists measure El Nino. We're looking at that average sea surface temperatures right in that zone. And when those sea surface temperatures climb to a 0.5 degree or higher above average, that signifies El Nino. But we have to keep in mind, this is based upon a 3-month rolling average. So it's one of those things where it's something we're always measuring, but it is a constant check. So based upon that 3-month average yesterday, we officially were 0.7 of a degree above average and climbing. As of now, we are expecting a fairly strong El Nino to develop. So it is getting stronger as we speak, and it is expected to basically peak, or at least be at its strongest point during the peak of hurricane season.
Which is good for us,
Yes.
at least in terms of the weakening storms potentially. The other thing is, like you said, this could be a rather strong one, and you're already at, again, 0.7 degrees Celsius. And it doesn't sound like a big number, but you're talking an average over that span of water of being above normal. But some of the guidance, at least I've seen, is 2.5 plus degrees.
Yes, it does have the potential to be one of the strongest El Ninos on record. So I made this graphic to kind of go back in time at other El Nino seasons, and you can kind of get some perspective here, because you might be thinking, okay, 0.7 of a degree Celsius, that's not big, but it really is. It really is significant when it comes to our thermal winds and how it impacts our subtropical jet stream, for example, which I'll show you here momentarily. But here's kind of a look back at our recent El Ninos going back to 2002. And so you can see there's only one on there, 2015, when we were greater than 2 degrees above average. So if we do hit that mark, Andrew, I mean, that is considered a very strong El Nino.
Oh, absolutely. And you're some of the model guidance even have it almost in what I'll call historic territory. It's not going to be like, the historic ones of years yonder, where, it caused other issues on the Pacific side, but it's still going to be a pretty significant event for the fishermen on the Eastern Pacific, because that obviously kills the fish on that side, but it also affects our tropical Atlantic.
Absolutely. So one thing that's interesting that is of note, so back in 2015, fun fact, that was the last time prior to last year that we didn't have any landfalling hurricane in Florida.
Wow. That's a check mark. We'll
right.
Take
it's
fingers
a check
crossed,
mark.
Take that. Hopefully that stays the same.
So I found that really, really interesting. But, we also have to look back. You look back at 2023, that was a strong El Nino, but we still had Hurricane Idalia, which made landfall in the Big Bend. That was still a powerhouse storm system.
And there's two thoughts on that. So obviously, we keep talking about El Nino, and that has usually a weaker storms or less storms. you can still get ripples in the El Nino, so there might be some weaker moments of that jet stream going across. Again, this is just influencing the jet stream. It's not a be-all, do-all of that wind shear. It's not a constant. Again, remember, the atmosphere is a fluid, so it's constantly flowing here. You also have a couple of things you're working with. 23 was a above normal Atlantic as well. This year, it looks like that main development region is running a little bit below normal.
Yes, so we're going to be watching all of that very closely for you here. But again, just kind of a friendly reminder, a refresher of what El Nino does to our weather pattern over the Caribbean. So those warm sea surface temperatures there just off of the South American coast, basically because that's warming up, it shuts down other big circulations in our atmosphere and it kicks our subtropical jet, those are those arrows you see there, it kicks it into hyperdrive basically. So you have very strong winds aloft in the low and mid levels of the atmosphere, and those are the levels that are really critical for those hurricanes to get fired up, to get started, and to continue to intensify. So with those stronger winds, that just kind of helps to rip apart those thunderstorm cloud tops that make up the tropical storms, that make up the hurricanes. So this would be a good thing to see those stronger winds for sure, because that can help to also limit the intensification. Should a storm develop, it might not get quite as strong. It might have a limited capacity to undergo, say, rapid intensification, which of course we've seen a lot of lately.
And our friend Tim commenting on here, and you probably want to address this. There's a lot of stuff you see on social media with the term Super El Nino thrown around. Super El Nino is not a thing.
It is not. It is not.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
Sure. So Super El Nino is just kind of, it's a hype word. You know?
Yes.
It's a hype word, to put it nicely. So we use the word strong, very strong. You know, that's from the National Hurricane Center. That's from NOAA. Super El Nino, I mean, how do you really quantify or qualify that? It's just one of those.
I've seen people try to put figures on it, and it doesn't. You can't put figures on something that definition doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. So yeah, we don't use the phrase super. That's a great question, though. You won't hear us say it.
No.
You might see it elsewhere. You might see it in other headlines because, of course, it gets people clicking and excited about it, right? But for us, a very strong El Nino is a possibility.
And I understand why, again, we don't call it that, but I understand why people are throwing that around, because it is going to be potentially a very strong El Nino.
It is going to be super. Who knows? Maybe they will create a new nomenclature for you. You never know. But in the meantime, we are going to be using the official wording that is used by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. All right, now let's talk about what is in the tropics, what isn't in the tropics. So right now, everything across the Atlantic, Caribbean, nice and quiet. And even in the Pacific right now, you see those two blue dots there on the southwestern side of your screen. So in the lower left-hand corner, those two blue dots mean that we're not expecting any development in the Eastern Pacific right now either. No other waves of energy, even though they have now gone through their first 3 named storms of the season. So they're now seeing a little bit of a lull in action. What we are monitoring is that wave right there in the southwestern Gulf, also known as the Bay of Campeche. So this particular wave, this kind of kidney bean shape, it only holds a 10% probability of proper development into a depression. At this point, it's unlikely that it's going to get that close center of circulation. What it's going to be doing, it'll kind of create this broad area of low pressure, right? Just kind of this area of disturbed weather there in the southwestern Gulf. And that's going to bring wet weather, potential for heavy rainfall, even the potential for some isolated flooding, even in eastern Mexico, South Texas. And now we're seeing that kind of curve up the eastern coast of Texas, including the Houston area. But, a little bit of rainfall there, not necessarily a bad thing, Andrew.
No, it's not a bad thing. A couple thoughts here. You can already see that area of low pressure trying to form there down in the Bay of Campeche. But again, this is going to be that broad area, like you said. Yesterday, we were seeing that shape of development kind of almost drove it into eastern Mexico there. Now we had this kidney beam. Looking at the latest guidance, it looks like it's going to be tried to pick up by a little frontal boundary, which is why you get that little curvature there, running more up parallel to the Texas coastline. But like you said, I mean, the Houston area could use some rain. South Texas, Rio Grande Valley. They're not in the drought that we're in here, that severe drought, but they're still abnormally dry to some moderate drought across portions of Texas. So it's a good thing for them.
Yes, and you can see right there with our tropical moisture tracker, you see that deep purple there indicating where that potential for heavy rainfall will be. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. Of course, it's something that we'll continue to watch for our neighbors there in the western Gulf. But for us, zero impact expected. We're going to be dealing with a classic rainy season pattern, more or less. here in Southwest Florida.
But you see, I mean, a lot of the Gulf there, I mean, it is full of tropical moisture. And it's not shocking for this time of year.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that we talk about, even though it is El Nino, that we are officially in El Nino and we are expecting a less active season.
Right.
We always talk about how all it takes is one.
Correct.
And our reporter, Paul Dolan, actually went down to Goodland, an area that was hit hard in Hurricane Andrew.
Oh, yeah?
They don't take El Nino lightly.
Nope.
It doesn't matter what we're predicting. Every season is different. And that's why we have to be prepared every season. So let's see if we can show you what some of our neighbors down in the Goodland area are doing to prepare this season.
Goodland is a tightly knit community. The 2020 census reports just over 300 people call this island home. That's not even a full square mile. Storm surge is the threat here because this island sits just 7 feet above sea level. Here in Goodland, hurricane season isn't judged by counting storms. It's remembered by the ones that come close enough.
I got flooded every time for there. I had I had anywhere from 1 foot to 3 feet on those storms, and that passed almost 100 offshore.
Mike remembers flooding here after Hurricane Andrew trekked across the state.
Andrew came across, it came right across the state through the Everglades, but once it got out into the Gulf, then the wind switched around and then the storm surge came in.
Pastor Joe Brown showed me the water line from Hurricanes Ian and Irma. He says each time a storm floods their island, the church brings everyone together.
We don't pray for him to keep coming, but he's used the storms to bring us together closer as a community and in our faith to the Lord as well.
For Gabriella, watching hurricanes flood her low-lying island home since the 60s is devastating each time that it happens.
It just horrified me. Those huge trees were just like naked.
But she also looks deeper.
For some reason, it just brings us closer together, and we really help each other out.
You see this picture? Well, it hangs up in the Krabby Lady. It shows one of their tables getting washed away after Hurricane Ian, and it's sitting way out there past that sandbar. But in Goodland, you see everybody helps out each other after a storm. So somebody else got a boat, tied up the table, and brought it back to shore right where it belongs. Reporting in Goodland, Paul Dolan, Wink News.
And I just thought that story was so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's special. I mean, churches, places of worship tend to bring us together, but especially during catastrophe, that's when we really need our community and we need to be with our neighbors and our friends, especially like trying to rebuild, but also trying to heal internally.
Well, and obviously we've done a lot of hurricane talks lately, and you're talking to a lot of people, and we saw this firsthand too after Ian. So many people lost power for days. Well, yes. And what did everybody do? They opened their freezer, which is everything was going bad, and they cooked for the entire neighborhood, and people came together like I've never seen before.
It was kind of like a little Waffle House that we had going on in our, we had the extra propane tanks, so we had 2 propane tanks. That was the only way to cook on our grill. And I remember Ryan just serving up the eggs,
right?
Trying to get all the bacon cooking,
right?
So that way we didn't lose the bacon. It was kind of a matter of, okay, how much meat can we cook? How quickly?
Yes.
And then also, we didn't have a generator, but our neighbors across the street, it was fantastic. They're like, oh, do you need to charge your phone?
Right.
Granted, we didn't have cell reception, so that was kind of a moot point. But, just being able to have that, like, oh, can we recharge batteries or whatever you needed? And it was all a matter of just coming together, all of us together again.
And you go to these events and, sometimes you see the horrors of society, but a lot of times you see the beauty of society too, and I think it's a nice thing.
Yes, we all come together. Unfortunately, it just tends to be one of the worst events,
yes,
to ever hit our area when we do. But I do want to point out that, the hazards, Goodland deals with the storm surge, but those hazards, they're not just at the coast.
No.
They're also inland. So I want to spend a little bit of time and kind of talk about some of those other hazards that we do deal with when it comes to these landfalling storms, because we know that we have the storm surge at the coast. We know that's where the strongest winds tend to be, but you can still have strong winds inland. For sure. I remember Hurricane Milton crossed all the way across Central Florida, even over Cape Canaveral was still a Cat 1.
Oh, yeah.
As it exited. So it maintained hurricane strength the whole way. So you can still have those strong winds, but also these storms are notorious for producing heavy rain, which leads to freshwater flooding. And then, of course, we have that tornado threat. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about that, that freshwater flooding concern. For example, Hurricane Ian, in Lee County, we only had like 4 to 6 inches of rain from Hurricane Ian. We dealt with the other stuff.
Right.
But our neighbors in Charlotte County, you look at Grove City, we had nearly 27 inches of rain. That was in Charlotte County, more than 2 feet of rainfall. That, of course, led to a lot of freshwater flooding, but also all of that rain, that also occurred up in Central Florida.
Orlando,
it all drains to the Gulf.
Yep, it all goes south through the rivers, creeks, streams, and finds a way down. And like this graphic says, the Myakka and Peace River, it took 3 days after Ian. You remember after Ian, it was crystal clear out there. It was beautiful, really. The skies, we were all dealing with the aftermath. But, some of the folks there in Charlotte and Sarasota counties and DeSoto County, they may have walked out there thinking, oh, we're done. Well, a couple days later, that water rose into their house.
Right. And it kept rising. And I remember, 41 being shut down in Punta Gorda. I remember I-75 actually at one
totally
point
shut down
having
there.
to be closed because the Peace River was right there at the bridge, which is so hard to fathom.
Right.
The Peace River rising 23 feet. I remember trying to drive through Arcadia. I couldn't. The road was gone.
Yeah.
70 and 72 were both shut down at some point. So Arcadia kind of became a little island.
Well, and a lot of, the emergency vehicle traffic had to go up and around to even get here, which took some time even to restore some of the power and whatnot.
That's what we did when we had to get my mom out. We ended up going all the way to Lake Okeechobee, then going north through Highlands County up through Sebring,
Right.
and then cutting over that way.
Yeah. You got to get around it.
It is what it is. And this is actually a picture that I grabbed from that Peace River flooding in Arcadia, and that is one of the main roads into and out of Arcadia.
And I talked to a lot of ranchers out there. I mean, they had to put cattle up onto overpasses to save them from that flood water.
Absolutely. They don't swim the best.
No.
And a foot of water, by the way, can float most cars. So, we see people sometimes try to drive through like, oh, I have a big truck, I can handle it. It's like, friendly reminder, cars aren't boats.
Well, that, and you don't know what's underneath that water.
Or what isn't. That road might be gone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just like that picture. I mean, look at this. The road was washed out. So, like, what if you're driving along and all of a sudden,
bang, it's gone.
Right.
And
you
then
have
you're in
no
the ditch.
idea.
Yeah.
You're then in a raging river.
Right.
So we always say turn around, don't drown. We cannot emphasize that enough, just because it is preventable. And flash flood deaths tend to occur. Most are in vehicles. Most are at night. So if we do enter a flooding situation, whether it's a hurricane making landfall or it's just a big downpour that maybe leads to some of the isolated flooding, if you can, try to stay off the road at night, especially because it's so hard to see. When you encounter something like this, you're just driving along, don't even realize it, because that kind of looks like a black road.
Oh, yeah, that. And, we always tell people, you aren't a storm chaser. Don't go adventure seeking in the middle of these, these storms. It's just,
right.
You're not trained for it, but we don't even go adventure seeking.
Definitely not at night. I do not go out at night anytime we're dealing with ongoing damage and ongoing flooding. We always make sure that we are in position at least 24 hours before a storm hits, and then we stay put, and we don't move. We stay put. The only reason why we leave is if the hotel is compromised,
right.
which has happened to some of my colleagues with other hurricanes. The other thing that I want to talk a little bit about is, the tornado outbreak from Hurricane Milton. That was so unprecedented. And Milton made landfall in Siesta Key, so, just toward our north, crossed over through Central Florida. And so places that weren't in the cone, nowhere close to the cone, where we weren't expecting a landfall at all, they were still severely affected by a multitude of tornadoes. It was the biggest tornado outbreak that Florida has recorded, and the most EF3s in any given day. And for those to be produced from a tropical system, that was unprecedented.
It really was. And you look off to where the majority was. Granted, we had some here in Lee County and Charlotte County, but it was inland and then off towards the East Coast. In places like, say, Palm Beach area, it was sunny as can be. And then all of a sudden they had an EF3 go through, a number of tornadoes going through well before anything even sparked up. I remember as Milton was making landfall, I was still sitting at home waiting to come in and join you at the station. And that's when the tornadoes started popping off Alligator Alley, and we're like, oh boy, something's really about to get going here.
And those tornadoes, they reminded me of when I was chasing in the Midwest. That's what that reminded me of. They weren't rain wrapped.
No.
That's what was horrifying. We were able to see it on the FDOT cams.
Oh yeah, it was crazy.
The one up toward Clewiston going through, and long track tornadoes at that.
And it's funny you mentioned the Clewiston. So I was out there last night and talking to some folks in Hendry County, and they're showing me pictures of some of these the EF3 that went through there, and it just. And they had this GoPro that was on one of the fire trucks as it went up towards Buckhead Ridge there, when that that through the mobile home complex there. I mean, it was insane, some of the damage that they were dealing.
It's just a big reminder that especially in that front right quadrant, relative to the storm's motion, that's where we have the best potential of seeing those spin up tornadoes.
Well, and you get and you think about it. I mean, a lot of these supercells are over the water. There's no friction, and the second they hit the land, it's like a boom. Yeah,
instant spin up.
Yeah.
So, as always, friends, we want to make sure that you are prepared. Mahmoud, do we have any more questions?
We do. Ina asks, what are some easy ways to get prepared and stay one step ahead?
Oh, nice. Mina asks, what are some easy ways to get prepared and stay one step ahead? Well, you know what? I have a whole graphic for that. Don't you worry. All right, so some of those key essentials that I always like to talk about, and it's always good to remind you. I know my viewers who have seen it before, but hey, hopefully you're new. You're just joining us. So first things first, you make an emergency plan. So have an idea of where you're going to go. Know your zone. If you're zone A, zone B, you are the most vulnerable. Zone A always gets called first. If you are zone A, that's because you are susceptible to flooding. Generally flooding from storm surge, but also river flooding as well. So you need to know your zone. That is not the same as your FEMA flood zone. Your evacuation zone is you can go to floridadisaster.org, know your zone, boom, type in your address, and that way you know your susceptibility to rising water. Stock a disaster supply kit. Just be ready with a gallon of water per person per day. Red Cross says, have at least 3 days worth of supplies. I say have at least 7. Just having gone Ian, I was without power for 9 days. I get it. MREs sustained me, so I get it. This time of year, we always say halfway there, halfway full. Keep that gas tank halfway full, so that way you're already halfway there, because that was the biggest issue. It always is gas.
Oh yeah, those lines. And you have insurance on here, and that's another good one, because once your cone's out there, you can't update your homeowner's insurance. I mean, you're stuck. And if you don't have insurance, well, sorry.
Right.
And that's what they're going to tell you. Also, I want to jump ahead here a little bit here. Documenting your property kind of goes hand in hand with that insurance there. One of the things that the state recommends is a lot of us all have smartphones. Take pictures. Video is great as well. So
our weather watchers, no weather watchers. That's okay. That's all right. Sorry, weather watchers. There we go. We got those weather watchers. Thanks, friends. See, we have the best production crew. They always make magic happen, even if we don't think that we have the capability. So our weather watchers, we have more than 1,100 of you Southwest Floridians who have signed up. It's just great. And you can be a weather watcher as well. You head over to winkdues.com. On the right-hand side of your screen, you just click the weather watcher tab. You have to fill out a form. You sign up, and you basically give us consent to use your pictures online. This one's hilarious. I love Kenneth.
You got to love AI, too.
He just, he felt like look at that. He's an avid weather watcher.
That's fun.
But isn't that impressive?
That's really cool.
The AI stuff is just amazing. Shout out to our girl Mary.
I met her last night.
I love her.
She was awesome.
She's the best, the most positive person, and I hope that is your July 4th outfit,
That's
Mary.
Fantastic. Oh, Flag Days this weekend, too.
It is. Yes, June 14th.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, and then this is from Tim Crowd about an hour ago, showing off those beautiful fair weather cumulus clouds kind of puffing up here across Southwest Florida. Eventually, they will help to produce some of those scattered showers and storms, especially in our inland communities later today, once those westerly winds start to pick up between 5 to 10 miles per hour. Down in Naples, Ken Skelton. Alticumulus, baby. I love those Altic-Q. Aren't they pretty?
They are pretty.
Oh, this is where you were. Is this where you were?
No, that's not where it was, actually.
Oh, how awesome, though. Mary B., that was when they were able to receive all of the hurricane guides.
That's awesome.
Oh, that is just fantastic. The seniors at LaBelle Senior Center say thank you for Wink Hurricane Guides.
Perfect.
Love it. We got that. Let's see. Good morning. Mary Pat Fitzgibbons from the forum. This was 3 hours ago. She received, about 1.1 inches in the rain gauge.
It poured last night.
It was great. It was excellent. Oh, and as always, Brandon Griggs, he always sends us pictures of his neighborhood burrowing owls.
I mean, there might as well be his pets at this point.
I know. They're so funny. Look how pretty that is, though, showing off how happy
Oh,
the
my
bees
goodness.
are with the gorgeous flowers.
He takes great pictures, too.
He does.
All of our Wink Weather Watchers do, really.
All of our folks are just amazing. And just look how pretty this is. Ken Skelton
Mm-hmm.
taking this from Estero. And we are so grateful for our weather watchers. And we are so thankful for you tuning in today to this edition of Wink Tracks the Tropics. We hope you'll join us next week. Again, we are weekdays, Monday through Friday from 12:35 to 1 p.m. Be sure to leave us your questions, leave us your comments. That way we can be sure to get to those, and that will help to drive our next conversation. Have a great weekend.